So I'm going to cut off the kookaburra and I think get started. It looks like folks are wrapping up. And I want to first say that a lot of what you've seen so far have been completed projects. This is a work in progress. So as much as we're interested in your questions, also interested in feedback when it comes time in the panel session. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing in the Michigan field office of the Nature Conservancy to support project management and reporting. And as a way of institutionalizing adaptive management using really capitalizing on two different processes that are complementary and a tool that supports both of them. And I also want to say that the Nature Conservancy, as you heard this morning, has been committed to adaptive management for a long time. So the new Conservation by Design 2.0 is very similar to open standards. It's not exactly the same, and I'm not going to do a crosswalk now, but it represents our version of the open standards. And it's a work in progress. So if you were in the other room right now, you'd be hearing Olivia Millard, and I have to give a nod to her, talk about how we are learning to adopt and implement Conservation by Design 2.0. We're still learning this, so it is a work in progress. And what I'm going to talk about kind of fits in the bottom left there with knowledge capture and sharing. And in fact, Michigan, for that purpose, fits in that first intermediate result of engaging pilot teams. So I do have to thank Dan Salzer. He's been probably the chief advocate for using Miradi to support adaptive management within the Nature Conservancy. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the current status in Michigan, like how we manage our conservation information. We organize our conservation work with what we call conservation business plans, and there are roughly 20 of them, and they contain a lot of basic information about the conservation work. Within each of those, there are a number of projects, maybe 2 to 12. It really varies on the complexity of the business plan. And we produce these project inventories that contain basic information about the projects, including the project goal, who's responsible, what's the timeline, and what the deliverables are. And for each one of these projects, we are beginning to adopt a process called highly effective teams. Just kind of a show of hands. Who has heard of highly effective teams? Not very many. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a moment. So the issue with this kind of project management, and Elisabeth touched on this, is that these are all managed in Microsoft products, using Microsoft software, different ones, and they don't talk to each other. It's hard to extract information from any one of these and apply it to some other analysis. It's impossible to roll up across conservation business plans or even among projects within a business plan to obtain any higher level assessment. So that's the basic issue here, and this is the one that Dan Salzer has been talking about for years within the Conservancy, and what we're trying to address with Miradi. So before I go there, though, a little bit about highly effective teams. This is a process for managing work at a project level, so not at a high level, but within each one of those business plans, project teams are using a suite of principles and tools. The Nature Conservancy adopted this in 2013, and the goal is that it will be fully adopted across all of our work by 2020. And the basics, this is focused on a project level, and I can't really see this, but so a highly effective team is a cohesive, productive, results-oriented team with happy, valued, and committed team members delivering quality content led by a skilled project manager focused on process. So it is focused at the team level, and that's an important focus. What we're trying to do is improve the effectiveness and of our work at that level. So there's quite a lot of support materials built around highly effective teams. And the process is another version of adaptive management. It's not, again, conflicting with the open standards. And it really does focus on a number of steps within open standards. I'm not going to read through them for you here, but we see this as complementary, not as something that's in competition with adaptive management. And what we're focusing on right now is at that project level, phase 2 of HET, but it hits on multiple steps of open standards. So there is a toolkit that Highly Effective Teams has developed to support every one of these 6 steps that you see here. And these are the different tools. And again, these are produced in different Microsoft software, primarily PowerPoint and Excel. And they don't talk to each other very well. The 2 that are of most interest for our project teams at the current time are Project Outline and High-Level Work Plan. I'm not going to show you examples of those right now for the interest of kind of staying on time. However, there is in the marketplace. I'll be down there later today. You can stop by and see what those look like. So the good thing is that Miradi will support producing those 2 key tools. So I believe you're probably all familiar with what we're calling the Miradi suite. We have our Miradi software, which is a desktop. Online version of that is Miradi Share. The Nature Conservancy has a customized desktop software called Miradi Companion that produces customized reports. And the good news is that it does produce a business plan report, and it also produces a couple of those HET tools, specifically the ones that we are most interested in, the project outline and the high-level work plan. We're also customizing reports within Miradi Share, and I know other programs and organizations are doing that as well. I'm not going to focus on that, but again, I'll touch on that later in the tools workshop. So here is an HET version of a theory of change. So this is one of the tools that is produced in PowerPoint, and I think you'll all relate to this, though you may or may not have seen it. There are 3 different spheres here. The sphere of control on the left, that's the most fine scale, the sphere of influence, and then the sphere of impact. So ultimately, what we want to see, using as an example, what we're calling our Miradi transition project within Michigan. This is the process of transitioning from Microsoft to Miradi. Our outcomes are that MIFO, that's our office, will more effectively manage business plans and projects to achieve agreed upon measurable results. Our business plan managers will be able to more efficiently and consistently report on progress towards those desired outcomes, and they will more effectively identify opportunities and needs for adjustment, the whole adaptive management. Now, a more important perhaps audience is that our higher level conservation team and M team, the management team, will more easily evaluate progress and resource allocation across business plans. So those are our intended outcomes from a project and business plan management perspective. Some of the things we're doing is training staff, establishing a support structure and capacity, transferring all of the information from our business plans into Miradi, establishing a method for quality assurance and control, understanding and supporting what our office needs for reporting. You guys are way ahead of us on that. They have the Cadillac model, Bush Heritage. And understanding and providing HET tools. And that will lead to some corresponding intermediate results. The goal of our project is that by June of this year, all of our business plans are managed with Miradi, and our managers are reporting greater efficiency. We'll see whether we get there. I want to point out that this is an important selling point, is that Miradi and HET support system is established. It's not one or the other. It's that our capacity and training and management of information supports both the open standard or Conservation by Design 2.0 and HET. How we're going to do that is for every business plan, we'll have a Miradi file. And within that, we will have what we're calling HET results chains. Results chains, as I'm sure most of you, or all of you understand that, are focused on theory of change. There's another version of a results chain that is specifically intended to support HET. And if I have an extra minute, or maybe later today, you can stop by and see what that looks like. The goal is that we'll have one of those for every HET project. We're going to support this by having our business plan records on Miradi-Share, where team members will interact primarily with Miradi-Share. We're not going to expect every team manager to understand and use Miradi, but we will have support staff for that purpose. And then our conservation operations at a higher level can use Miradi-Share for program level assessment, as Elisabeth demonstrated so wonderfully using BI, right? What is it?
Yeah, Power BI.
Power BI. So how are we doing? I've just noted a few of our achievements. So far, we've got about 50% of our business plan information entered into Miradi. But we're at a pause because some of those are in revision. So we're kind of waiting for those to be revised before we continue. We have strong support from business plan managers and MIFO leadership. So in a moral sense, they say this is a good idea. They value the ease of producing HET tools, the ease of reporting on project milestones, and the management of information across the portfolio. So those are some of the positives for our work. Some of the challenges and constraints are that we have limited staff capacity. So we have no one assigned full time to this. We have 2 people assigned at either 20% or 50%. And we have 1 volunteer. So limited staff capacity for this initial big lift of getting all the information into Miradi. Adoption of HET in 2016 kind of disrupted the momentum that we had at that time, and so we had to learn about HET, restructure our information, and then also the shared conservation agenda, which is coming now. Shared conservation agenda is our way of implementing Conservation by Design 2.0. So that's a good thing, but it interrupts our momentum. And the funding to support programming of Miradi-Share at a higher level is limited. You may or may not have heard of that. So those are some constraints. There are some other challenges. I'm going to stop now in the interest of time, and I think we'll move on. So a few minutes to write down any observations of things you'd like to apply in your own work or challenges that you might want to hear more about.
Thank you, Doug.
Sure.